Welcome back to Hair What I'm Saying, the podcast where we discuss hair, identity, culture, and the science of hair, with a special focus on Black textured hair experiences. I'm your host, Kenitra. Over the past few episodes, we've been talking about beauty standards. We've been talking about ivy braids. We've been talking about professionalism, conformity, respectability, and who gets to decide what beauty is supposed to look like. And one question kept showing up. Who made the rules? But today, I want to ask a different question. Who sold us the rules? Because when I walk into a beauty supply store, browse a hair aisle, or scroll through advertisements online, I notice something interesting. The language: anti-frizz, edge control, curl definition, taming, manageability, maximum hold, smoothing, repair, control. And I can't help but wonder, what are we being taught to believe about our hair? What happens when entire industries are built around convincing us that something about our natural state needs to be corrected, controlled, defined, smooth, fixed, or improved? Today we're talking about marketing, we're talking about beauty, we're talking about language, and we're talking about what happens when advertising becomes so familiar that we stop questioning the message. Let's get into it. One of the most powerful tools in marketing isn't the product, it's the language. Think about it. Companies don't just sell products, they sell solutions. And in order to sell a solution, there has to be a problem. Let's take a walk down the hair aisle. You'll see products promising to control edges, define curls, tame flyaways, smooth texture, manage volume, eliminate shrinkage, repair damage, strengthen weak hair. Now, some of these products absolutely have benefits. That's not what I'm questioning. I'm questioning the language, because language shapes perception. If a product promises to fight frizz, then frizz becomes the enemy. If a product promises control, then hair becomes something that needs controlling. If a product promises definition, then undefined becomes undesirable. The words themselves create a standard, and once that standard exists, we begin measuring ourselves against it without even realizing it. Think about how often we hear people say, "My curls aren't defined enough. My hair is too frizzy. My edges won't stay down. My hair won't behave." Behave. That's an interesting word, because hair isn't a child. Hair isn't misbehaving. It's doing what it naturally does. Yet many of us have absorbed language that frames our natural characteristics as problems needing correction. And that's where marketing becomes powerful, because once a problem has been created, a product can be sold. One thing every beauty industry has in common is this: it makes money by solving problems. The challenge is that sometimes the problem is real and sometimes the problem is manufactured. Think about the phrase, what problem is this product solving? Now ask another question. Who decided it was a problem in the first place? That's where things get interesting. For generations, Black women were told straight hair was professional, manageable, presentable, appropriate. And if straight hair became the standard, what did that automatically make everything else? Different, less desirable, less professional, less polished. Now suddenly an entire industry can emerge around helping women achieve the standard. Pressing combs, hot combs, chemical straighteners, also known as relaxers, permanent waving systems, smoothing treatments. Each generation receives a different solution, but often the same message. Your hair would be better if it looked like this. That's not an attack on anyone who chose those styles or still do today. Many women made choices based on opportunities, safety, acceptance, employment, and survival. The point isn't judgment. The point is understanding. Beauty standards do not appear out of nowhere. Someone creates them, someone reinforces them, and often someone profits from them. Imagine being 6 years old, 7 years old, or even 8 years old. And before you've even had an opportunity to develop a relationship with your natural hair, someone is already selling you a solution to a problem you didn't even know you had. Many of us remember brands like Just For Me, the bright packaging, that cassette tape with that Just For Me. Y'all, I can't sing, but y'all know what I'm talking about if y'all have ever purchased a Just For Me. And that lotion just smelled like candy. I love the smell of that lotion. But the smiling girls, just the promise of easier hair. Manageable hair, beautiful hair, pretty hair, all the things. The message felt harmless, but underneath the marketing was an assumption. Your natural texture needed improvement. Your natural texture needed changing. And years later, something fascinating happened. Many of the women who appeared in those advertisements began sharing their experiences online, specifically TikTok. Some revealed that the hair people saw in the commercials wasn't chemically straightened at all. They were natural with a good silk press. They had styles created specifically for the advertisement. And suddenly, many Black women found themselves asking, wait a minute, the very thing I was told I needed wasn't even being used by the people selling it. We're no longer talking about a product. We're talking about perception. We're talking about marketing manipulation. The image being sold was often more important than the truth. I want to fast forward many years later and talk about the natural hair movement because it did something beautiful. It challenged straight hair as the default standard. But let's be honest, sometimes it created new standards, new expectations, new hierarchies, new pressures. Suddenly, everybody needed the perfect twist out, the perfect wash and go, the perfect curl definition, the perfect edge control, the perfect routine, and the industry adapted immediately. The marketing industry. Because industries don't care what the trend is. They care that there is a trend. And if there is a trend, there is a product. And if there is a product, there is a what? A profit. Okay. Think about the language. Curl defining cream, curl activating cream, curl enhancing cream, curl perfecting cream, curl elongating cream. Different labels, different brands, the same promise. And what's the promise? That your curls should look a certain way. But wait, didn't we just leave a conversation about beauty standards? And now we're right back. Let's talk about one of the most interesting words in the Black hair industry: control. Not edge moisturizer, not edge conditioner, not edge styling creams, edge control. Now, maybe that sounds insignificant, but language matters because words shape how we think. And if we're constantly hearing words like control, tame, manage, fight, smooth, eliminate, what subconscious message are we receiving about our hair? Think about it. We don't talk about controlling straight hair nearly as much as we talk about controlling textured hair. We don't talk about fighting straight hair. We don't talk about taming straight hair. We don't talk about making straight hair behave. But textured hair, control it, manage it, tame it, keep it in its place. And after hearing that language for decades, many of us stop questioning it because it sounds normal. But normal doesn't always mean neutral. Sometimes normal just means familiar. And here's where I think ivy braids became such a lightning rod. Ivy braids don't prioritize control. They embrace movement. They embrace texture. They embrace softness. They embrace imperfection. And for some people, that's beautiful. For others, it's uncomfortable because it challenges what we've been taught beauty is supposed to look like in our culture. Now let's talk about anti-frizz products. Because if there is one word I've heard throughout my career as a hairstylist, it's frizz. Clients hate frizz. The beauty industry hates frizz. Entire product lines exist to fight frizz. But I want us to think a little deeper about what frizz actually is. Sometimes frizz is simply texture. Sometimes it's humidity. Sometimes it's movement. Sometimes it's hair expanding because that's what hair naturally does. But sometimes frizz can also be a sign that the hair needs something deeper than a styling product. It can be connected to dryness, dehydration, damage, split ends, a haircut that's overdue, or hair that needs more consistent care. And that's where the marketing can become misleading because an anti frizz product may temporarily smooth the appearance of the hair, but it does not automatically address why the frizz is happening in the first place. If the hair is dehydrated, it needs hydration. If the ends are damaged, they may need to be cut. If the hair is responding to humidity, it may need a different styling approach. If the hair is naturally textured, it may not need fixing at all. So the question becomes, are we using the product as a styling tool, or are we using it because we've been taught that frizz is always a flaw? That's the difference. There is nothing wrong with wanting a smoother finish, but we have to be careful when the language of beauty teaches us to treat every sign of texture, movement, dryness, or expansion as something that needs to be fought. Because sometimes the issue isn't that the hair needs to be controlled. Sometimes it needs to be understood. Sometimes it needs to be nurtured. And sometimes it simply needs permission to exist without being labeled as a problem. Let me ask you something. How many curl creams do you think exist? Hundreds, maybe thousands. Different colors, different packaging, different celebrity endorsements, different price points. But if you read the labels closely, you'll notice something. Many of them are selling the exact same promise. One says curl defining, another says curl enhancing, another says curl activating, another says curl perfecting, another says curl sculpting. Different brands, same message. And that message is your curls should look a certain way. Now, before anybody gets upset, I'm not saying curl creams are bad. I'm saying we should pay attention to what is being marketed, because sometimes we're not buying a product. We're buying an idea, an expectation, a standard, a vision of what our hair should become. And if every company is selling the same vision, or are we really making different choices? Or are we choosing between different versions of the same message? Here's something fascinating. The beauty industry is incredibly adaptable. When straight hair was the standard, products promised straightness. When curls became popular, products promised curls. When natural hair became mainstream, companies rebranded, the language changed, the marketing changed, the packaging changed, but the business model remained the same. Find a desire, create a promise, sell a solution. And that's not unique to black hair. That's marketing. The challenge is understanding when marketing becomes identity. Because once a product starts influencing how you see yourself, we're no longer talking about a shampoo. We're talking about psychology. We're talking about self-image. We're talking about belonging. And that's where things become powerful. Because if I had $1 for every product claiming to grow hair, I'd probably have enough money to start my own hair care line. Officially. Growth oils, growth sprays, growth butters, growth serums, maximum growth, extreme growth, rapid growth. The promises are everywhere. But here's what I want people to think about. Hair growth and hair retention are not the same thing. For most healthy individuals, hair is already growing. The question is whether you're keeping the length that's growing out of your scalp. Because if your hair is breaking at the same rate it's growing, it may appear as though it's not growing at all. And that's where marketing becomes powerful. Many products are marketed as growth solutions when the real issue may be breakage, damage, dryness, traction, poor hair care practices, or even an underlying medical condition. No oil can replace a proper diagnosis. No serum can replace healthy hair care practices. No butter can override biology. That doesn't mean products can support a healthy environment for the hair and scalp. They can. But there's a difference between supporting healthy hair and taking credit for growth that was already occurring. And there's another possibility we don't talk about enough. Sometimes it seems like a product suddenly started growing your hair because the product caused you to start paying attention. You started taking pictures. You began tracking your progress. You became more consistent with your routine. You paid closer attention to breakage. You started protecting your hair at night. You became more intentional about your hair care practices. And 6 months later, your hair is longer. Was it the product? Maybe. But it's also possible that your habits change, because one of the most powerful things a product can do isn't changing your hair. It's change your behavior. And when your behavior changes, your results often change too. Sometimes the growth isn't coming from the product. Sometimes your hair was already growing and you're finally paying attention long enough to notice it. That's why it's important to be careful about giving all the credit to the bottle, because while products can support healthy hair and scalp conditions, they should never get credit for replacing biology. And that's a distinction many marketing campaigns hope consumers never stop to think about. This is a question I want to leave you with. What if your hair isn't a problem? What if your shrinkage isn't a problem? What if your texture isn't a problem? What if your volume, your frizz are not problems? What if your hair is simply doing what hair does? Now, that doesn't mean you can't style it, experiment with it, change it, straighten it, curl it, color it, cut it, wear however you want. The point isn't that every characteristic should be celebrated. The point is that not every characteristic needs to be corrected. There's a difference. And I think sometimes we become so accustomed to solving problems that we forget to ask whether a problem exists in the first place. Because if someone can convince you that something is wrong with you, they can always sell you the solution. Before we close, I want to make something very clear. The conversation is not an attack on hair products. Products are tools. They help us create looks, achieve certain styles, express ourselves creatively, and care for our hair. There's nothing wrong with using edge control because you love a sleek ponytail. There's nothing wrong with using a curl cream because you enjoy a more defined look. There's nothing wrong with straightening your hair, wearing extensions, coloring it, braiding it, or trying something completely different. The issue isn't the product. The issue is the belief, because there's a difference between saying, I want my hair to look like this today, and saying my hair is a problem until it looks like this. One is self-expression, the other is self-correction, and those are not the same thing. So as you continue your hair journey, I hope you'll use products as tools, not as proof that something about your natural hair needed to be fixed, because your hair was never a problem waiting for a solution. It's hair, and it deserves the freedom to exist without constantly being viewed through the lens of correction. All right, y'all. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. My voice is tired. I know y'all hear it. It's cracking. It's going in and out. I waited until 11:32 p.m. Central Standard Time to record this podcast after talking all day long. But I came through because I want y'all to hear this message. I want y'all to feel this message. And I want y'all to just challenge the narratives that Black women have always been accustomed to believing about themselves when it comes to their hair. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Like I said, I'm tired, y'all. I was preaching one. I'm sorry. But until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep asking the deeper questions. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this episode with a friend who loves thought-provoking situations. Peace out. I am out of here.